Irish, I'm Irish. In Irish, we say Dabbagh. This evening, we have got a discussion among leadership, and we just happen to be women. So it is women in architecture who've had great experiences, and we want to share in a personal way our experiences as working as architects, as teaching, and we all know each other for a long time. So forgive us if we go into a huddle and just start chatting like friends from a long time who haven't seen each other. But I'm here with some amazing women tonight. And what I'm going to do is I will be moderating, and then everybody is going to introduce themselves slightly. And then through the course of our discussion, you're going to find out a little bit more about how we work, how we play, what interests us, what other interests we have, and how we can inspire the next generation of students of architecture and design. So I'm going to start with Nadia Habash from Palestine, who many of you know. I want to talk to you on this, because when you were a little girl, did you always want to do design and architecture? What's your story?
Well, actually, when I was young, I was waiting to be a doctor. To be, I was really more interested in medical issues. And, I wanted to be a doctor. But then in life, when I was adult, I changed my mind. I wanted to study something that, but I found out that I love science and arts and social studies. So I didn't want to go to social studies. I didn't want to go to engineering, for example, for science and things, and I didn't want to go to arts. So I chose architecture as a field that combines all of that. So this was not in an early age. This was when I was in the last years of the school. So I went to study architecture. Keeping in mind that this profession or this field combines all these things together. So that's why.
It does, it does. And did you regret not studying medicine, or did you say, no, I'm happy, I made my choice, architecture was for me?
Actually, I always say that I'm happy I took this decision and I did study medicine.
That's the right answer. Sumaya, how about you?
Actually, I'm born in Jeddah, but my grandparents, my mother's side, lived in Taif. And that's a mountainous region. The mountains actually go back 1,400 meters. And we used to make this trip every weekend. It's about a couple of hours drive. And when we get to the top of the mountains, they were so impressive. They made an impression on me that these huge forms were impressive. And then, age 13, my family, my parents and siblings, I'm also a little child, we were 6 and I was number 4. Anyway, we moved to the UK, and so the mountains there were replaced by buildings and towers, and I thought, wow, this is sort of built environment is something that you can influence. You can maybe influence how people feel through that. So that's really how it started. And then I was also interested in art, and I happened to be good at math, so it kind of fitted. But that's how it started.
When you were talking, you reminded me of my childhood. I used to be the only one in the family asking my parents, take me to Chinese opera. I want to go to visit a temple. And I would sit there and I forgot dream and just go into another zone. That was, yeah, I was so interested in things like in landscape. And then my mother took Iran courses, and I started wanting to know more about that, so I became very good at Iran. And then the next thing you know, my mother couldn't find the hairdresser that she liked, so I started doing her hair, and I started putting her makeup. I became the reference in the family for everything that has to do with beauty.
And we were 14, actually we were 13, and we were 10 girls and 4 boys. Yes. So we were the majority actually. And all of us are practicing architects, and all of us have reached very high positions at work.
That is amazing. And I'll just tell you a little story here how I met Nadia. In 2007, I chaired Women in Architecture in the UK for RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects. And the British Council said, Angela, would you lead a mission to the MENA regions? And we've been paired to do an exchange with Palestine. And I said, oh, that's unusual. I've never been there, but yeah, why not? And will you please pick 6 other women architects to come on this trip to Palestine and to meet Palestinian women architects? And all I had to do was ring 6 women that I knew from different practices, mainly large practices, and some small practices, and university, Alamuddin. And I just asked them once, would you like to be part of this mission that are going to Palestine to meet our counterparts, and they will come back to us? And they all said yes immediately. And when we went there, we had the most wonderful welcome. We were in Dabbagh, and we ended up at the very end in Jordan. So having met so many women architects and engineers in Palestine, I must say we had such a wonderful introduction to a culture that we would not have met if it wasn't for this exchange program. So thank you.
But can I elaborate on that? Actually, we were 6 architects who were in exchange with the British architects. It was our turn to go to the UK and work with them in their offices, and the 5 of us were able to go, and I was not able to go. You remember? Yeah, because I have been forbidden by the Israelis to leave the country for 29 years. So, so at that time, all of these participations, unless they were inside Palestine, I was not able to participate.
Yeah, no, that was the one point that was so disappointing in the exchange, and hopefully things will get better. We will talk about that in a moment.
Actually, my story around education started well. I got a place at Baghdad University, and also my father had secured a scholarship from Saudi for me to study. But in my second year, I got a letter saying that architecture is not appropriate for women. So you need to change major, you can do interior design, if you want to do a scholarship. This is really the 80s. When really at that time they stopped education for women. So I was lucky enough to have the support of my parents and family and seek financial support elsewhere, and I continued the study of architecture. But really, that period, there was a period of 25 years where architecture was not open to women. And in the early 2000s, I think 2004, 2005, it opened up again, and now you have a new generation of graduates, which is great. But really, it was a gap that was missed. Those 25 years where it wasn't allowed. So there isn't that many, I don't have that many contemporaries in Saudi because of that.
Have things changed now?
Yes, yes. I mean, it's since 2005 that it started again, and now there's obviously those 20 years ago that graduated and are practicing, but definitely there's a missed opportunity there for about 25 years.
That's really interesting, and it's good that it has changed for the better.
Yes, I mean, yes. It's, things have really evolved in Saudi now, but not the time when I was growing up.
But did you have to campaign for change yourselves? Sometimes it's hard to do.
Yes, I mean, I was living abroad and I was studying abroad, and I think it was not easy. Even when I came back in the 90s, it wasn't easy to practice in Saudi. In the 2000s, they started allowing women in some offices, but they had to have segregation. So there was a whole, several generations of women who really suffered through that. But now it's totally changed, and women are studying and working, which is really great to see. But I think, for the country's kind of development, it missed that opportunity, especially, I mean, Saudi is not as old as, somewhere like Iraq, obviously. So the boom happened in the 70s, and it missed that having more women, just more diversity in the profession.
In the boom time, an awful lot of our students from Dublin got jobs over there, all the chaps, all the lads, men, and they went over there and they earned a fortune because there was an awful lot of building going on there in the building boom. And then they came back and then they did their own practice or worked for bigger practices. So, it's a big they went all in at that time. Do you think the buildings might look differently?
I think, just men and women have different perspectives. That's why more diverse perspective, me and you would have different perspectives. If we broaden that perspective, then you can actually meet needs of people who have different needs as well, and different requirements. So it's instead of having a narrow male and often white Western, especially in the adultery, there's a lot of imported architecture from white Western males who came from outside. You lose something, you lose a lot, you lose a lot of opportunities to look broadly at what is needed, what is the land, the people are needing. So I think it does make a difference.
Yes, and I think that all of us promote diversity and inclusion in our own ways, and we promote women. And I think that one of the things, certainly from my colleagues' point of view, from the Architects for Change group that we started at the RBA 25 years ago today, they're celebrating today. So they wanted to have a camera here to say hi to everybody. So just hi from everybody from London, celebrating diversity. So that was interesting. That things will be different. But my mantra is always men and women together make the best architecture and place. What's your story?
Story is similar, but I'm trained. I was born in a family where there was no discrimination. I never thought of myself as different to my brothers and my country. My husband as well. His mother was a businesswoman and highly educated, senator many times down. So he was born in a family where the mother was very powerful. So all my life, I never gave that any attention to the difference between male and female at all. And I think I project that. I walk into a room and I don't see that at all. And I promote always that if you are good at what you do, it takes you beyond gender. That is my way I see it.
Yes, very true. Yes, speaking of families, I come from a family of 3 daughters, and I'm the youngest. So my father was fanatical about education. I mean, he was the generation that saw a lot of his friends lose everything, whether it was from Syria or even Iraq or Palestine. So he always said, your only weapon in life is your education, because it's the only thing nobody can take away from you. So he really was very fanatical about that, and if it was education, he would give us the green light to go anywhere and do anything, etc. But my experience with education was not so much about the issue of gender as it was about culture, because I started my education at IUB, halfway through first year, and then my mother appeared in the studio and said, okay, Allah, we have to go. The civil war is getting worse. We need to move to London. And so I went to London and had to start all over again and do my A-levels and so on. And really, for me, the struggle was the cultural shock of having to deal with and adjust to an English system, because we're talking in early 80s, right? So it was not like common for people for foreigners to come and join universities, especially it was a polytechnic at the time. So it was tough, and also, architecture is culture, and suddenly I'm working in a culture that was completely foreign to me. But I was lucky. I had a friend, like an older sister, who was also Iraqi, Batayneh, called Nasreen Yahya, who really took care of me, and we bonded, and we, formed this front against the others. And yeah, I mean, for me, again, it's not about gender as much as it is about being able to work with people, being able to sort of listen, and being able to really be empowering as well as being empowered.
So, we are all experienced architects, and empowering, as you say, comes with its challenges in the early days, because first of all, you've got to have a few wins, so to speak. So keep that microphone there, we'll come back this way. So what challenges in your career, from say the early to mid-career, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Funnily enough, it had nothing to do with gender. Because in our part of the world, if you have a certain level of education, if your family knows people and so on, people trust you, especially like if you teach at Brady and graduate MIT, etc. They trust you. That's not the issue. The problem was me, because having been brought up very strict, very women should be quiet, we should never talk about money and all that, and then having to run a business. I mean, that was the challenge, that was the nightmare. It was for me, it took me a long time to sort of be able to stand and ask and, sort of not be too nice to my clients also. So it was an inner demon rather than external.
How about you?
Any big challenges in your starting out in career?
It sounds funny. Architecture itself, whether you're male or female, is a very, very challenging profession. I think you all agree with this. I hope. Yes? No, I think that everybody's okay. So for me, the challenge was not sleeping at night, never knowing where to stop. There's always more to do. Going to site, having pair of shoes in the back, extra clothes in the front, managing, this juggling of roles and responsibilities and at one time when you have children, especially when you have children, it becomes a little more than balance. It becomes about juggling. It goes beyond that into another level where you just don't want to drop the voice. And that's when you stop and you say, wait a minute, there is something else. There must be resilience here. We have to build resilience to be able to cope with all of this.
Yeah.
That's my story.
It's a good story. I think we all do that, resilience. When I went to UAE, I worked for other practices, big and medium practices for a few years, but I really felt that I was really against the tide. There isn't that appreciation of the value of design. I mean, at the time, UAE was still before the big boom, and everything wanted to happen quickly and built quickly, and return on investment and all of that. So that for me was a really big challenge, and that's actually why I started my own practice. I felt that there was just so much imported architecture, and the market didn't value the role of design and how it can improve people's lives. So that was one side. On a personal level, I think, it resonates with what you said. There is, I think, being a minority, because even in England, I was, the only woman in a room of so many architects, especially on site. Here, this region is also totally male-dominated. So I think you just feel like you have to work harder, and also I think you feel that you can't make any mistakes because you just, the fingers will get blamed for everything. And as I've evolved in this profession and in my role, I realized that actually, we're human. It's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, and just to find a bit more compassion to myself for that, and not really keep pushing. Often it's an internal thing that you push yourself to manage everything and be everything for everyone. So that's my learning.
Yeah, I think that's so true.
Okay, well, for me, I started as a teacher, in teaching. I did not start as a professional architect. So I started in teaching, and a few years passed, and then there was attacks in Jerusalem on the people living in a neighborhood called Al-Madrassa. And the neighborhood committee and Jerusalem Higher Committee, they contacted the architecture department, actually the faculty of engineering, and asked for help if we can help them to, let's say, make some mitigation in order to protect people instead of having the stones falling on top of them in the courtyards, and instead of having the sanitary of the settlers dripping on their heads, and so on. So we were 6 teachers who volunteered to do it. And it was very hard because we were faced by the Israeli army soldiers every time, and also by the settlers. They were throwing on us not only stones, but what's it called? Glasses filled with kerosene, and when they were lighted, petrol bombs, yes. So it was very dangerous, and it was every time we were threatened to be arrested. So by time, all the other five teachers, or professors, they stopped coming, and it was only me who continued. I continued for 2 years, working in Al-Madrassa Al-Mustansiriya. Sometimes I could not go out of the building that I was supervising communication. I would stay overnight until the morning comes and then go up. So after that, I started evaluating whether I should continue in teaching or working in practice, because I felt that there's a need for working in practice in this field. So I resigned from the university and I started my own practice, started my office, and started working in renovation and restoration mainly in Jerusalem at the beginning, until I was forbidden to enter Jerusalem. And at the same time, I continued teaching, but as a part-timer at the university, because I believe that teachers at the university should be practitioners. Not all of them, but those who teach design, they should be practitioners in order to really give the students the know-how. So I continued working in practice and teaching at the university until now.
And I've visited many of your buildings, which are fantastic, absolutely beautiful buildings, great research history. So as we are all women in practice, and everybody here has won many design awards, and the lists are very long on the wall, the awards. In the way that it reflects on a community, and I think it's a really important element that sometimes it just becomes like graphics, architecture becomes more graphics, and now with AI, just that there is no connection, there is no heart. So I think that's really an important ingredient, but also for yourself, so that you know that this is, everything comes from that. And that, I think, the way my practice has evolved and the team that I have, I feel very blessed because, maybe because I'm modeling, but I'm also getting the same back from them. I get a lot of, there's a commitment to this part of the way that they also work, which makes me feel really proud to have created this environment where they're able to work and thrive. Thank you. Nadia.
Okay, I'll tell them, don't be arrogant, be humble. They should practice on teamwork, and they should learn to listen, okay, and not just to speak up. So I would encourage them to start teamwork since they are students. Because this is the work. This is how work is done in offices. In offices, everything is teamwork. So they should practice on that from school. Okay? And also, they should have a mission. They should have a mission in their life. Otherwise, working in architecture would be just drafting, or would be just imitating whatever they see on Pinterest or on the wherever. So if you don't have passion, if you don't also improve your qualifications, if you don't have a mission, then you will produce fake architecture. So I would also tell them to be, let's say, connected to their communities. Because if you understand your community's problem, then you will be part of solving it. Otherwise, you will be part of causing these problems. Architects, if they don't produce good work, useful work, they will produce disasters. And we see disasters in architecture. So I would say, don't be arrogant and train yourselves on teamwork, and thirdly, have a mission.
These are all excellent advice. I'm going to add a couple of things. I think it's encouraging other people into architecture. And you can do that by going into the schools. Even if you're a second or third year student, you can go in and say, hey, my name is Angela and I'm an architect and it's a great profession. And they will see that you're a woman architect, and that's a good thing to start with. But also, stand up. Stand up if you see something that's wrong. Stand up for what you believe in. Get a poster and protest if you have to. But often, you don't have to go that far. Communication is key. You can introduce new ideas. You can negotiate ideas and bring in new ideas. But in architecture, when you're in practice, every line can be a political line. So it's a matter of the type of projects that you work on or choose not to work on. I think we know the kind of projects we're talking about. Not to work for oppressive regimes, for example, but to really believe in yourself as a young architect and believe, yes, I can do it. Don't give up. So students, don't give up. We want to see you all as young practicing architects. Thank you, everybody. Shukran. I want to say a very big thank you to our wonderful panel, and of course to the organisers, the Tamayouz, or we wouldn't be here again. And please, a round of applause for our wonderful panel. Shukran. You have not seen the last of us.